Hello, I'm Eric Sauber with the Law Office of Eric M. Sauber, and today I'm going to talk to you as an employer and business owner about some of the workplace laws that you may unknowingly be violating. A lot of people know about the obvious employment laws that prohibit discrimination, sexual harassment, cheating workers by not paying them properly, and those are pretty obvious and often easy to spot. But there are many more subtle slightly variations of the law that you need to be mindful of, variations that is of conduct that violate the law. So let's start with the beginning of any potential employee's work for you, the job application and the interview. Now, when you're interviewing an employee, they might be a bit nervous and you might as well. And you want to make sure that in putting them at ease, you don't inadvertently ask them questions that might be unlawful. For example, asking an employee about their marital status, or if they have family, or if they're planning to have children, while seemingly an attempt at socialization or being friendly can violate some of the laws against discrimination. It might be seen as gathering evidence against this person to see if they're going to get pregnant and perhaps might imply that you don't want to hire someone on that basis. You want to avoid asking employees about their age, their sexual orientation, whether they have any credit issues, or if they've ever been incarcerated. And I'll do a separate video on the ins and outs of the incarceration status of your employees. You also want to make sure that you don't ask about even things such as casual drinking, in case the employee is, for example, recovering alcoholic, and you might unknowingly ask them to disclose information about protected disability. Another violation of workplace employment laws that you need to be mindful and aware of is the discussion of salary. Mainly, you are prohibited as an employer from telling your employees, either future or current ones, that they are unable or not allowed to discuss their salary with other workers. Similarly, you cannot ask employees in New York State about prior salary history, with a few exceptions in there. And the reason for this is that the asking employees not to discuss salary can be seen as a way to suppress workers' discussions about wages, and that might be in violation of the National Labor Relations Act. In addition, New York State has what's called the Equal Pay Act, which has been amended, and any ban on, for example, women discussing their salary with men might end up encouraging or fostering an environment where women and men have a pay inequity. So, to be clear, no bans on salary discussion within the workplace. That being said, you can have a certain condition and explain to employees that there are appropriate places and times to discuss their salary. Another possible violation of the law that you might not even know you're doing as an employer is asking or allowing your employees to work off the clock. We live in a society that's constantly connected. Everyone's on text, phone, Snapchat. Workers and their employers are always connected 24/7. And if you're emailing clients off the clock and asking for feedback or asking them for information or answering questions, if you're having your employees prep something for an upcoming shift or clean up for the following day, or if you're simply having your employees post on social media for your company off hours, and that's a directive as part of their job, those hours can count towards a 40-hour work week. And once you exceed 40 hours, assuming your employee is covered by the Fair Labor Standards Act, assuming they're not an exempt professional, you might be required to pay them overtime. So if you have employees that are covered by overtime laws, be very mindful not to have them do this subtle type of work off the clock. And I also want to talk to you about some employment laws that relate to discipline. Discipline is a very important part of any employment situation. You have to have a policy that lets employees know what they can and cannot do. However, employees complaining about their work on social media has recently captured attention of the National Labor Relations Board and has even gone up to the federal courts. It's an interesting situation. If you have employees that are complaining about your company on social media, they might even be complaining about you as a boss. If they're talking about their salary or their wages or the hours or the conditions of work, you may be prohibited by law from firing them for voicing their complaints. Doing so, firing an employee under those circumstances, might be considered a violation of the National Labor Relations Act or the state labor laws. because you want to make sure that you're not prohibiting or chilling your employees from expressing their speech and possibly associating for the potential of unionizing or opposing unfair labor practices. While you're on the subject of employees and wages and pay, I'd like to talk to you about another very popular topic and a very popular item that employers have in their arsenal, which is the unpaid internship. Unpaid internships can be a wonderful opportunity for your workers to learn and for you as an employer to teach and train. However, you want to make sure that you don't promise your employees or your unpaid interns a potential job immediately following the internship. And I've seen this with clients of mine over the years. They like an intern, they have a summer student working off the college, and they tell them, if you do this internship well, then when it's over, I have a job lined up for you in the same position. And while you're trying to motivate and inspire your workers, what you're actually doing is almost implying that this is simply a practice run, an unpaid trial run for the real position. And so that might be changing the motivation of the internship, which should really be ideally for the education of the employee and for your training as a person in your field. These are some of the laws that employers tend to violate. Laws around overtime, unpaid internships, salary discussions, job application questions. And doing so can end up costing you, whether in a lawsuit or in the fines and penalties by the New York State or the federal government and the Department of Labor. For more information on employment law issues or labor law issues, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel and watch many more videos of this nature. I'm Eric Sauver, the Law Office Eric M. Sauver, and I thank you for watching.